enough people have asked me about how to do the powers in Fury of Dracula. People want to learn how to be evil. To which I would respond, why do you need my help in teaching you how to be evil? Just look at the members of the political party that you don't like. Yeah, you know, that specific political party. Man, aren't those guys evil in that non-specified political party? But enough about me saying bad topical jokes. Let's talk about powers. This is going to be a pretty short video because there's a small amount of powers, and most of these, there aren't a ton of things that I can say. So let's start with some of the easier ones. So, Dark Call. You may look at this and think that it isn't actually that good. I think a lot of newer players don't seem to like this. They think that 2 damage is a lot. It's not. And they don't really see the advantage of drawing 5 encounter cards. Drawing 5 encounter cards can be really good even if you have Vampires and Fog, just because you're gonna want to try to get through your entire encounter deck as Dracula. You just need to get to your good encounters faster. Just because you might have Fog and Vampires, you'll want to get Bats. And you may want to get Hoaxes or Saboteurs to go along with your Vampires in the opening play. I'm a big fan of this early, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it early. There are advantages to not going for an early Dark Call, especially if you happen to have drawn the things that you want. But you need to think about encounter economy. Out of the first week, generally you don't want to use Dark Call unless you really want to stay in place for some reason, like if you're tangled up in Ireland and you really don't want to have to move or you can't move. That's when it can be really bad, because generally you want to feed or hide if all you're wanting to do is not move, but when encounters are on the trail, you aren't able to use them again until they slide off. Speaking of feed, and I have more to say about Dark Call, but I want to talk about feed first, because feed and Dark Call are very similar. Feed is, I would say, maybe the most powerful power in the game. It's definitely one of the ones that I say if you're playing with new players to turn off. 3 healing is insane. In 2nd edition, the healing was 1, and that felt really strong. That takes care of Dark Call, so commonly you will Dark Call and then feed in the first week, although there are disadvantages to that. It is often what you will do after you go to sea. One thing you need to understand about the map of Fury of Dracula is that when you move, if the hunters are far enough away from you, your relative position to them isn't actually going to increase when you get far enough away. So you want to be able to be counting and checking to see, is this move that I am making actually moving me further away from the hunters, or am I so far away at this point that moving isn't getting me further away, or is actually getting me closer? And that's a thing that can happen. That actually can happen a whole lot when you get really far away from the hunters, which will happen. And so you'll want to feed when you do that. But even if they're on your trail, if they're like 3 moves away from you, I would still probably feed, just because healing is really good and you obviously will need it after going under the ocean, and 2 ocean moves and then a feed is just really fast and good. Now, okay, so I've talked about these 2 powers and they're very similar. There are weaknesses to that. Then their weaknesses are the same. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean the weaknesses are the same? One of these cards gives you hit points, and the other one takes away hit points. How are these 2 cards the same? Well, both of these cards are the same in the sense that they are a move that you do, which does not move you, and does not place an encounter. To an extent, Hide is sort of like this, but Hide actually does place an encounter, so it doesn't have some of the weaknesses, so I'm going to talk about this. This is something that a lot of people don't take into account for these two powers, and also they don't take it into account for ocean movement. So this is actually also surprise video on ocean movement. Both of these are not land moves, and they're not ocean moves. There's a lot of really significant problems and drawbacks that happen from not doing a land move. So obviously you're not placing an encounter down. That's bad for a few reasons. Not placing an encounter means that the hunters don't have to spend an action looking for that. So while it seems like you aren't doing a move, it's almost like you're not doing two moves. Because normally the hunters have to worry about sending somebody to go take care of the encounter, and then once they've taken care of the encounter, then chasing after you. When you're doing a dark call, you aren't moving, so that's one more space they don't have to chase after you, and you're not leaving an encounter, so that's also one more thing the hunters don't have to do. Now, if you're wanting to count via day actions, you could say that, oh, that's only costing them 5 day actions instead of 4, which is usually what you do when you move. It's a little more complicated than that, because some encounters can slow down hunters even more. And that can eat even more day actions, so it's not as simple as that. That doesn't mean don't do Dark Call, and it doesn't mean don't do Feed, but these are weaknesses you need to understand. It is also a big problem with ocean travel, and why I'm convinced ocean travel is balanced in this game if you understand how to exploit it as the hunters. The other big thing that it does is it does not leave a lair. That's actually pretty significant, because lairs let you deal with your encounter economy. When a card slides off the end and it doesn't have an encounter, which usually is the case, unless it's maturing, and if it's maturing and it doesn't have a good mature effect, often you want to turn it into a lair anyway, just to shuffle your encounters. I mean, maybe don't. If it has a half-decent mature effect, sometimes it's worth it. But especially if it's, say, wolves, or the Sizgani mob, if they aren't going to get any value out of them, you definitely don't want to mature those, because those just reveal your location. Well, they reveal the location of the city, and you don't want to have to do that. So definitely turn those into lairs. Obviously, neither of these moves can be laired. Also, hide can't be laired, obviously, because it's not a location. And so that's 2 encounters you're missing out on. And it's slowing you down so you can't move, and it's making so the hunters don't have to worry about as many encounters. Is that worth it? I think it is in a lot of cases, but I don't think it's as simple as Dark Call, Feed, Move, and Hide. Maybe sometimes do that. I'm generally a fan of that, but it might be more complicated than that. There's an argument to be made for the idea that early on the hunters are going for anti-encounter cards, and so throwing down a bunch of encounters isn't worth it, and that maybe later in the game you can Dark Call and Feed and use a bunch of powers because the hunters aren't going to have a bunch of stakes and dogs and whatnot. Dogs in the first week to deal with the Saboteur trick is actually starting to kind of be... It comes in and out of the meta, which is fun. That's part of the game. That is something to think about. Obviously, I already talked about the no moving with the cost of the power. Now, I will say, one advantage in a lot of things that... So this is a good thing I'm going to say about using both of these powers, that a lot of people don't take into account, is the Obfuscation. Not moving means you're not putting another thing on the trail, another location on the trail, which means it is harder for the hunters to find you. If they draw newspaper reports when Dark Call is location number 3 on the trail, then, oh, that's really good. Now they have to wait until a encounter goes to space 5. Of course, if you just have a whole bunch of powers and not many encounters, then that's going to happen anyway, and the hunters are going to be like, oh good, we only have to worry about these 2 encounters instead of 5 encounters that we have to hunt down, and then we have to try to guess which of these have vampires, and do we want to search everyone, and we give Dracula a lot of time to escape. But generally, the hunters may be more okay with that, because they're trying to avoid fights in the first week. So, again, that's an argument for using these later, but again, the main value of Dark Call is getting those encounters early. So that's an argument for using these kinds of cards later. Obviously, Feed is good throughout the entire game, and you should I would say almost always use it on cooldown. If there's a situation where you don't think you're going to get jumped on, feed. It's one of the most powerful cards in the game. I think might be maybe too powerful, but that's just me. The game is reasonably balanced at high-level play. So yeah, what I refer to as obfuscation is a big fancy word that makes people think that they're smart, and it refers to hiding information, making things harder to understand. Basically, harder for people to figure out where Dracula is. Now, when the hunters are all around you, it's reverse obfuscation, because you're not getting further away and increasing the number of locations. So when the hunters have revealed your trail and they know where you are, then using one of these powers actually limits and helps them find you. But when they don't know where you are, or when you've moved so much at sea or with wolf form that the number of locations you have is really, really high, then using these powers actually does obfuscate for you. And that's actually really important for you to understand. I would say when the trail is maybe 4 long, or 3 with wolf form, at that point using one of these powers, well, no, honestly, maybe even just 3 long, or 2 with wolf form. I mean, it depends on the area of the map, but yeah, something around that. 3 or 2 with wolf form, then using one of these powers does protect you in the sense that you aren't leaving down more trail for them to bumble into. A lot of times people will feel bad. It's like, oh, I wolf formed and did all these moves. How could he find me immediately? And it's like, well, because you did all of these moves. If you wolf form and then you use feed and then dark call, well, then maybe not dark call because it hurts you, but maybe you do it. Then it can be harder for them to find you. Be really careful about using Dark Call. I mean, generally I won't use it more than once in a game, but occasionally I've used it twice in a game. I'm also not the best Dracula player, so maybe somebody who's a really good Dracula player can start making videos, and then I don't have to. But, sounds like I still do. So yeah, I want you guys to understand obfuscation. The raw value of getting your encounters out is good. It's not as good as you think because, again, you're not putting down a lair, and you need to understand the weakness of not putting down a location. Having to deal with a whole trail of normal Dracula moves can be actually really hard. At that point, you're basically trying to lose the deduction game to win the movement game, because it's like, okay, it's very obvious where I am. I have a trail of 6, but now you're going to have to deal with all of these things, and maybe I'm going to score points. That's a trade-off. When that trade-off is good, it matters differently, and how to leverage that trade-off depends on the game, and it depends on what they're drawing. When it comes to Dracula strategy, there's a little bit less of you have to do this, you have to do that. It's more of when you're in these certain circumstances, here's how you leverage your advantages. And when you're in this type of circumstance, here are the advantages that you have. When you put down a trail of 6 cards, the advantage you have is that the hunters have to deal with that trail of 6 cards. The disadvantage you have is that it's really easy for them to find you. And your encounter economy isn't as good because you haven't dark called. And newspaper reports is even more likely to find you. These kinds of things. Let's talk about hide real quick. Hide, I talked about already in some of my other videos, but I'm going to go over it really quick. This is kind of your most important power, I would say. If you're playing with new hunters and you turn all the powers off, if I would turn one power on, it would be hide. Partially because it makes it so wax cylinders has more than just a single use. And also because half the fun of Dracula is comboing encounters. You aren't generally going to use this to obfuscate. Occasionally using it can obfuscate. But generally the hunters are going to move around and find you, and it's like, oh, I didn't move, and then they move in, and then the hunters just move into your space instead of moving into the space behind you. That's generally how hide works. Or they move into the space and they're like, oh, there was a hide here, so he's way closer than we thought. Oh, how good. And usually that's always the case when the hunters move in and find hide. They're always like, oh, good, he used hide. Now we know where he is. So yeah, hiding actually, in an odd twist of fate, is a card which makes you less hidden. It doesn't actually hide you more. It makes you, it's actually more of an aggressive play. So the name can kind of confuse you, and and I think confused some players. What it's used for is putting down another encounter so that you can hit a hunter with 2 encounters at the same time, or use 1 encounter to protect another one. For example, the Saboteur trick. When you move, you put down the vampire or the hoax, then you hide and place a Saboteur, so that when someone moves into the space, you ambush with the Saboteur, delays them. That night action, they become delayed. They're delayed, so they can't do something. So the next day action, either by then the card will have matured, or they have to decide if they want to get rid of the card and waste another day action. So it's a way of using a Saboteur to cancel a day action. That's the kind of only time you ever want to ambush with a Saboteur. All other times you want to keep the Saboteur there and then have the hunters search, and then surprise, it's a Saboteur, you become delayed unless you have dogs. Saboteur is the card that makes dogs good. And why, honestly, I will take dogs in the first week to help deal with the Saboteur hide combo and just Saboteurs in general. Do know that if you, say, move to a location and then Dark Call, and then feed, and then hide, the combo still works. Even though there's 2 different power cards separating the hide from the location it's associated with, there's no change in mechanics there. It's still connected to that card. Hide is, it is the location mechanically. If the hide is revealed, the location that you're hiding in is revealed. If the location is revealed, hide is revealed. A lot of people don't know that, and I actually didn't know that for a while, until I actually played the digital edition, and it was revealed, and I was like, what? Is this how it works? And I checked the rulebook, and yes, that's how it works. And I think a lot of people got this wrong. Which is actually why Wax Cylinders is so good. When Wax Cylinders reveals hide, if it's on the trail, it also reveals the associated location, if the associated location is still on the trail. Also note that if you hide, you can't misdirect to the location that it's associated with, because that location is associated with a power. And it says that, location associated with hide. So understand that. Don't accidentally box yourself in, or don't... actually, I'll talk more about Misdirect when I get to it. The combos are really good. Double Reckless Vampire is fun, even though you can't mature the Reckless Vampire on hide. Oh, speaking of which, if you do throw down Double Reckless Vampire... So the way it works in the game is that the first encounter it shows you is the one associated with the location, and the second one they show you is the one associated with hide. So if you're getting, if you choose two of them, and you ambush with both, the first one that's coming out is the location one. Don't be a jerk and like make the second one go out, and then the first one goes second, and swap the order without telling the hunters. They really should change the game so they tell you this is the one associated with the location, this is the one associated with hide. Sometimes you might want to do that and be like, I'm going to ambush with the hide one first and then the location one, so that he doesn't know that the second one's a vampire. Although if you're ambushing with a hide vampire, they're going to assume that the actual encounter vampire, the encounter one, is also a vampire. I hope this is making sense, because basically it's the idea that you have two cards, they both have the same encounter. In the UI, it doesn't tell you which is which. The first one is for the location, the second one is for hide. And you can choose to have those go off in a different order. Just let the hunters know. I think this is the hide one. Sometimes I've had to do games where it's like, oh, we meant for this to be the location, but instead it was the hide one, so you killed it. Can you just not mature the vampire, because technically this should have been the other one? And yes, do that. That's fair. That's good sportsmanship. Don't take advantage of the bad UI to score yourself 4 points or 7 points. So yeah, that's more UI feedback. I'm trying to give strategy feedback here. I'm a big fan of using hide a lot. Again, you're not able to layer it, so it's a little less encounter efficient. But the double encounters is really powerful. Understand that you're not moving, which is dangerous. You're not creating a lair, which reduces your efficiency, and also understand that wax cylinders can reveal this, and that can really torpedo your plans, because wax cylinders can be used at night. Once John Stewart has wax cylinders, he's probably going to use it every night, although he will probably wait for a while to use it until he's pretty sure hide is down, and then he'll use it. So be a little careful with using this. I think part of the reason why there's been a little bit of falling out of favor of the whole vampire into hide with a saboteur in the first week. Why that's been done a little bit less is because a lot of people have been caught with wax cylinders in the first week, and it sort of increases the number of cards that can discover Dracula from. It's not just Hypnosis and Jonathan Harker and the 3 newspaper reports, but now it's also wax cylinders. It's like, is that worth it? Maybe. Maybe it is. I actually think it might still be worth it, even because it's just 1 card, and I mean, you're probably going to get found by some things. The problem is often it's often closer to where your location is. At least it feels that way. It may not be. Let's talk about Misdirect. So some people may look at Misdirect as just being like a utility card. You're able to clear one of your hideouts, which means that you can go back to a space if you accidentally blocked yourself in. Yes. Now, you can't do it if it's associated with a power, so no wolf form, no hide, and no ocean locations. That's a change from 3rd edition to 4th edition, which is pretty important. Pretty important change. Clearing the hideout is a pretty big cost. Obviously, you should use Misdirect in the first week to misdirect your starting location, because the cost associated with Misdirect is you're getting rid of an encounter. There is an argument for not misdirecting your starting location just to have another lair. I'm not sure about that. That seems like a low value. I suppose you're creating a lair and maybe it'll be face down when you get to it, which means you won't be revealed. If you move back to that location, you can stack another encounter on it, which means you could actually get 3 encounters. And that's fun, I guess. Is it good? Maybe not. Maybe it is. I mean, you could throw like 3 wolves at somebody. Or like 3 rats actually would be better, because it would actually do the 6 damage, whereas if they had 2 weapons, they would cancel all 3 wolves. But generally, I would say you're using Misdirect as a utility card, but there's actually a lot of value in using Misdirect to obfuscate, to actually misdirect. So this one actually is well named. Yeah, hide should actually be called like ambush or something, because that's really what it is, and it even sort of looks like he's prepping for an ambush. Misdirect, when I say obfuscate, I mean when the hunters are trying to find you and you have a long trail, it can be really good to misdirect one of the locations that the hunters are adjacent to, and it can really give them a lot of trouble. If you wolf form and then you move again and they still haven't found you, you should misdirect the location you moved from. Now obviously, you can't misdirect your current location, so it's a little harder than you think, and you can't misdirect the wolf form, so it has to be the thing in between your current location and the wolf form. This you could misdirect. Do know that when you do that, it's going to be a while until you get it off cooldown, so be a little careful. Although checkmating yourself is not really that much of a problem. It's like, just don't. I mean, it's not really hard to do. The AI does it, but the AI is bad. That's really all I can say about Misdirect. Do it on the first turn to misdirect your starting location. You can use it if you get into a bind, but generally don't, because getting rid of one of your encounters is really bad, because again, that's another thing the hunters don't have to do, and you're basically giving them a day action at that point. And day actions are the currency of victory for the hunters, and so only give it to them if you're really gaining a lot out of it. If you're obfuscating, or if you have to, or if it's the first week. But pay attention for that, because a lot of people will just do it on the first week and then never do it again, when there were obvious times when it would have been good to misdirect. Okay, let's talk about wolf form. So, the first thing I want to say about wolf form is that when you play wolf form, it will immediately pop up a prompt on if you want to use it with hide. 95% of the time, you never want to do that, so don't. No, 99% of the time, I hate it when people say 99. I'm going to say 98, because I like being different. 98% of the time, you never want to combo it with hide. There's an X button right up here. Click that. Do not accidentally wolf form into a hide. Unless maybe you do. Unless you actually do want to, in which case, more power to you. There's a whole bunch more rules on wolf form than are listed here. So honestly, I mean, Yeah, we need to just... if I'm going to talk about wolf form, I gotta pull up the rulebook. Oh goodness, where's the rulebook? It should be here. There's a rulebook around here somewhere. Maybe it's under settings. Why would the rulebook be under settings? Support? No. No. Oh, good grief. I really should have had this ready to talk about the rulebook. Wait, I think it's in the... I think it's in the actual game. Oh, I hate that. Okay, hold on. I'm going to create a local game. I really hate that this is how I have to... yeah, I guess we're playing as Dracula on this for reasons. Yeah, I'm going to have to just pull up the... This is such a dumb way of doing this. Skip ahead in the video to where I found it. Game settings. Where's the dang rulebook? Support? Game man under support. Good grief. Okay, game manual. Here we go. So this is pulling this up. Here we go. Rulebook. Let's find us a wolf form. This is alphabetized. No! This is the how to play guide. What? No! I don't want the how to play... Rules reference. Here we go. Rules reference. This is what I want. Okay, this is the cover of 2nd edition, by the way. Okay, so let's just go to wolf form. And I know you guys don't read rulebooks. I'm making you read this rulebook because wolf form is really, like, complicated. Oh, goodness. And it doesn't even have all the rules here because other things affect it. Okay, so wolf form is one of Dracula's powers, and it allows him to change into a wolf and move quickly through the countryside. Yes, so he can do that. He does it in the book. It's really powerful. When wolf form is played on the trail, Dracula suffers 1 damage and moves to a city that is up to 2 roads away from his current location. Wolf form is placed along on the trail with a location card he moves to. If a location card with wolf form becomes a lair, wolf form is returned to the location deck. Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that. See, this is why it's good to read the rulebook. I mean, I guess I kind of assumed that, but yeah, if you turn it into a lair, you get the wolf form back. Wolf form can be played with hide. When Dracula plays wolf form, he still places an encounter, yes, so it just follows the normal rules. When Dracula's current location is a C-zone, he may use wolf form to move to either an adjacent port or a city 1 road away from an adjacent port. Okay, yeah, so this actually doesn't include all the rules. Oh, good grief. Okay, I'm going to have to find where it talks about this in other places. One, at least, that I know about is Consecrated Ground. But, yeah, so it's a double move. But it lets you skip over the location. That can include a hunter, and you don't have to say that you move through. It can include it can't include Consecrated Ground. Yeah, where is that? Consecrated Ground is played when using wolf form. Dracula cannot choose a location that would require using roads connected to a city with either a Consecrated Ground token or a Heavenly Host token. So I'm convinced this means that you can't wolf form out of a location with Consecrated Ground. There's actually a big debate about this in the community. Went back and forth. The devs decided and decreed that you can use wolf form out of a location with a Consecrated Ground. Okay, but that's, it's not that huge of a deal or a nerf. You can obviously wolf form into somebody's location to be revealed. I'm trying to think of other things. If I think of a rule, I'll try to look it up. But the point is, wolf form. When do you use it? That's a tricky question. I've seen people use it when the hunters don't know where you are. Don't do that. It's a getaway card. Don't try to get away when the hunters don't know where you are. I wouldn't use it in its utility form in order to... If you box yourself in and you suddenly have to move to a place and you have to jump over a location. Like, obviously, you can jump over your own trail. Although, I think there might be a bug in the game that doesn't let you do that. Although, I think they might have fixed that bug. Oh, I feel bad for not knowing that. But you should be able to jump over your trail. But you shouldn't use it for a misdirect. I mean, you have misdirect for that kind of thing. And what you also have is your brain to not get you into a checkmate scenario where you have to wolf form. Don't do that. Wolf form is your escape as the hunters, you have to hunt down Dracula, have him escape it with wolf form, and then find him again. That is just a thing that you are going to have to do. Don't hesitate to use it. 1 damage is nothing. I will say wolf forming from the Mediterranean has a disproportionately high number of locations that are good to go to, and now that I'm thinking about that, I'm going to pull up that map again, and hope it still has my game up, or else that's going to be a little awkward. Yeah, okay, this thing I just started. Resume. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, I just want to talk about the Mediterranean real quick. So let's... Wait, what the heck? Oh, this is a different game. This is, I think, my... Oh, good grief. This is a bad video. Don't watch this video, guys. It's a bad one. But you guys wanted a game... You asked for this, everybody, okay? This is what you wanted. You wanted me to talk about how to be evil. Well, I'm not very good at being evil. So, there. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to talk about wolf form and some of the ideas to wolf form, or places that are good to wolf form. And to do that, we want to look at the map. Sometimes it's obviously not a good idea. Generally, what you want to do is you want to look at the number of red connector locations and decide how many more options is this going to create of where I might be. How many potential cities is this going to increase for me going to? Okay, looks like it's frozen up. But I'll just have to say it. The Mediterranean is really strong because the number of possible city locations is something absurd, like 13. Whereas for others, it's like 4 or 6, maybe, of possible locations that you can wolf form from. I will say that there's something to be said for simply landing and then wolf forming, because that can get you deeper into Europe, deeper into places. Yeah, that's frozen up for some reason, but don't worry about it. I don't know which is better. I do like wolf forming on land. I don't like having to wolf form to just get away from the hunters. Generally, you want to do it when you can, when the hunters are adjacent to you, and then you wolf form. When you're in the hunt space with a hunter and you wolf form, I mean, okay, you did the double move. The hunters have a lot of things that let them double move. Good rails, good horses, tons of encounters, and most powerful enough of all, not moving in with all their hunters. Holding back with some of their hunters in possible wolf formable 2 locations, and then once you wolf form and move. And this is actually a circumstance when the Long Night is good, because let's say you're in Strasbourg, which is the other really good place to wolf form from. It's the only city in the game that has 7 locations. Man, I really wish I could look at the map. Hold on. I'm gonna just maybe I should have made this video again, but I ain't gonna. I don't know what's going on here. I'm gonna have to open the game again. You don't get to look at my funny wallpaper even. Go away, Microsoft Edge. Nobody likes you. Yeah, I really need to look at the map to show you this, because, and I really should do a video on the map, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to focus on just powers. And if you think, oh, you're using a lot of time talking about wolf form here, yeah, I am. You know, when I was talking about fog, and I was saying how a lot of your strategy comes down to how fog works. That's just as true for wolf form. So let's just pick Strasbourg. No, they might find me there, the opening turn or something ridiculous. So let's pick, I'm just going to pick here. So Strasbourg, as you can see, it has 7 possible connectors. There's no other city on the map that has that. If we look at the Mediterranean, we see... actually, let me pick something a little more vanilla. So let's pick the Ionian. Wolf forming from the Ionian. That's, what, 4 locations? 1, 2, 3, 4. Black Sea, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. North Sea. Okay, this is a little crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, 8. That's a lot. English Channel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, 8 again. Okay, that's a lot. North Atlantic, I don't know why it revealed newspaper reports. It shouldn't have been legal for them to play that. North Atlantic, am I really going to count all of these? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's at 9. Let's count the Mediterranean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 13 for Cagliari. So it's basically double. Wolf forming from the Mediterranean, really powerful. Now, be careful about just beelining for the Mediterranean for that juicy, juicy wolf form, because the longer you stay at sea, the easier it is for people to know where you are after the first move. Obviously, the first move, if you then immediately move after that move, it's pretty worthless. And if, like, for example, you went to the Adriatic and then you did a single move, obviously they're going to know you're in the Ionian, so you want to do that third move, because then you're at least either in the Black Sea or the Tyrrhenian, and those are really far away. Now, if you do another move to the Mediterranean, you have to be in the Mediterranean now, and they can math that out just by knowing you went to the Adriatic. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13... now you're in the Mediterranean, they know you're in the Mediterranean, and you have 13 that are all near each other, and you took extra damage in order to get there. And not only did you take extra damage, you also didn't put down a location that can turn into a lair. You stayed at sea, which means you're more vulnerable to money trail, and you got more ocean locations on the trail, which means it's harder for you to escape now. Back out to sea, because you have ocean locations on the trail. And you stayed at sea so that they can supply and get good stuff, and you stayed at sea so they have more time to take care of your encounters. Those are also, you could get a better wolf form, where it was just as easy for you to be in the Tyrrhenian or the Black Sea, do a normal move, and then wolf form. Or to just wolf form normally from these locations. So yes, the Mediterranean is very powerful, but understand the trade-off. I think it's a similar amount of math if, like, for example, you went to the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, and then went Mediterranean. Although it's a little different because you could go North Atlantic, then North Sea, then English Channel. So going 1, 2, 3 doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually in the Mediterranean. It could be you went to the English Channel. Or you could be in the North Sea and go 1, 2, 3. That's actually why escaping the North Sea can be so powerful. And that's generally when you want to do the Mediterranean thing. Because you can go North Atlantic, South Atlantic, Mediterranean, wolf form, and then you could still be anywhere in England, and that's when you really want to use Psychic Bond. And part of the reason for that is that Western Europe has such good rails that the hunters are able to move around way easier in this part of the map, so the ocean connectors are a lot worse for you. But I'm talking more about the map, and I said I wouldn't do this. I'm talking about wolf form. A lot of times I see people trying to escape from Eastern Europe into Central Europe, and they'll wolf form over somebody, thinking that it'll trick the hunters. If the hunters are good, they won't be tricked, and they'll immediately move backwards and catch you on the first move. It happens a lot. You don't think you're going to trick a hunter by jumping over them. Sometimes you do. Because the hunter doesn't want to make a mistake. But when you're playing as Dracula, you don't want to base your strategy on hoping that the hunters will make a mistake. They might, and it's really hard to play a perfect game in this. And I would even say they will likely make a mistake. I make mistakes all the time in my videos, just watch my videos, but you don't want to base your strategy on, oh, I'll do this, and if they make the mistake of not realizing that I possibly could have jumped over them, then I'm scot-free and I can go all the way into Western Europe and they won't know. That's not what you want to base your strategy on. You want to base your strategy on, am I far away from them? Should I wolf form? And will it make me go faster? Honestly, wolf form is best on I am pretty far away from them. I'm just going to get away from them faster. And yeah, that's really good. Because not only are you getting away from them faster, but you're leaving a dead zone in between that you didn't leave. And it's really hard for hunters to deal with that. The wolf form is really powerful, but understand, once you use it, you don't get it back unless you're planning a vampire combo, which I'm going to talk about now. So, if a vampire is, say, here, and it matures, then the next 3 locations get cleared. So, if you throw a vampire down, it can be a good idea to do 2 moves and then wolf form. So that, and I hate that I'm telling everybody about this because I play mostly hunter, and now you all are going to figure out this trick. That means when this vampire, if it matures, it's going to clear the 3 locations, and it's going to clear the wolf form, and that gives you the wolf form back. That is crazy, because then you just got a bunch of points. Dracula is cleared his trail significantly, and yeah, he revealed the location with the vampire encounter, and they'll probably know your location by that time as well. But then you're able to, but if they do, you're still able to wolf form. That is nuts, and is really powerful, and you should totally go for it. You should try to get wolf form back with those kinds of combos. You can't misdirect the wolf form back, because again, you can't misdirect a location associated with a power. Another trick that you can do, this is something I discovered by accident on one of the first games I played in this. You can wolf form, and either you wolf formed into somebody's location, and you think they're going to fight you at night. This is something you can do early in the game if you're wanting to be really aggressive. Or you wolf form and then you get discovered, and the fight is in your current location with your wolf form. If you escape as bat, that clears the location, and that gets your wolf form back. And that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. It's like you've become this bat hybrid. And it's super dumb. And I did it once in a game, and it was the dumbest thing ever. And I'm like, is this real? Is this how this works? Yeah, it's dumb. So yeah, you wolf form either into somebody's location or next to them, and if they find you, basically, if you're in a fight and your location is wolf form, the value of escape as bat goes super high. At night, obviously, because it only works at night. Wait, no, yeah, only at night. Because you clear the location, then you move twice, and then you get to move twice again. So yeah, that's another trick you can do with wolf form. But generally, you want to save wolf form for when you absolutely need to do it, because the hunters, for the most part, won't close in on you until you play wolf form. Because good hunters are smart enough to know that if they try to close in on you, that's when you want to use wolf form. You don't want to, like, I don't want to use wolf form now, because obviously I would move towards them. If I was, say, in Strasbourg, maybe I would use wolf form because there'd be 2 hunters next to me. But maybe not, because John Seward is here, and that's one of my wolf formable 2 locations, and they're kind of in a circle around me. If, say, I was here, wolf form's great, because I'm moving far away from them. Or I could move down, and when you use wolf form, you want to be trying to move away from all of the hunters, because the best situation you can be in as Dracula is when all of the hunters are chasing you. You don't want hunters to be in front of you, because then you're moving towards them. And you remember in some of my videos how I talked about how great it is when Dracula can move the hunters away from him? It's also really great when the hunters can position themselves so Dracula has to move towards them. And that's why they tend to stay at a distance, and it lets them stay in place and do those amazing day supply actions, which are one of the most powerful moves in the game. And once you've used wolf form, then they're able to be like, haha, now we can start closing in. Although what they will do first is they'll cause their circle to shift. They'll do like a search pattern, I think it's referred to as like a reverse Archimedean spiral or something, where they check the furthest edges to figure out, okay, where's the wolf form at, and then once they reveal it, then they collapse onto you, because they know they have all of those turns for wolf form to come off cooldown that they can jump on you and you can't escape. Obviously, the other time to use wolf form is when they're in your location and then you have to escape. So the idea is they can send like a hunter in to try to fight you. Or maybe 2. You know, it depends. It depends on the circumstance, how many people they can send in, who has the best items. This all is dynamic throughout the game. And generally, they never have all of the hunters near you. Usually it's more like this situation. 1 hunter is off in the wrong location, 2 of them might be near you, and 1 of them is sorta near you. That's often how it is. And positioning your hunters so that they can attack Dracula, and positioning Dracula so the hunters can't attack him. And to be more specific, not just attack you, but cut off your possible escape routes with wolf form. You have to constantly be thinking about wolf form as Dracula and as the hunters. I almost want to say that 80% of this game is using fog and using wolf form. It's not, but it feels that way sometimes. So look at the map. Understand certain things, like wolf forming in England doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Obviously because the rails are really good. Be careful about understanding that these two locations are not connected, so you can't wolf form up to 8 if you're here, and actually the most that you can wolf form is up to 54, which is actually kind of a choke point, and it can be easy for hunters to collapse on you. Like if there's a hunter here and a hunter here, this one could horse over and this one could just walk over. So be careful about being like, haha, I'm here, I'm safe, I can wolf form past. The first thing they're going to do is check 54. Unless they think you are in 4, in which case the first thing they're going to do is check 15 and check 36. That's another thing I should say when doing wolf forms. So the question is, do you move to the furthest location or to the safest location? That's when sometimes it can be tricky to hide, but generally hunters are going to check locations anyway that you were in just to get rid of encounters, so that's probably not going to fool them for long. Can fool them for a little while, maybe. But hunters generally check the furthest location first. Now, sometimes they don't, because obviously it's that's where it gets into a psychology game of, where do I think he wolf formed to? Did he go to the furthest possible location, or did he go to somewhere closer? Did he wolf form and go to 26, if we're using the example of someone being in Alicante? Obviously, from the Mediterranean, it becomes interesting of, like, did he go here and try to go down to the boot, and they want to check that? Or did he go to 60, which is the obvious path up to Nuremberg, where you can get really far away? People really like this path here that Jonathan Stewart is covering up. Or another common example is someone goes to the Dracula goes to the North Sea, he wolf forms. Did he go to 7? Because that's the furthest. Because let's say all your hunters were fighting him in Iberia, and he escapes, and they use Money Trail or Hypnosis or something to reveal that he's here. Or, and sometimes I'll just guess it by, it's like, oh, he moved 3 spaces, and then he wolf formed? Yeah, he might be up here, I think. Or from Gallia, he moves twice and then goes here. Often you can guess him in 7, and even if he's not in 7, you at least remove that furthest possibility. It's that and 30 are the 2 options, so maybe don't. I'll say 75% of the time, it's still best to go for the furthest location, because a huge part of this game is movement, and if the hunters can't manage their movement and hunt you down, it doesn't matter if they know where you are. And so wolf form, fortunately, it obfuscates you, it moves you, it does everything you want to do. The only thing it doesn't do is help you in fights, because it actually hurts you. I think the card should cost 2 blood, and maybe Dark Call should cost 1. I don't know. I talk about that and what I would change about Fury of Dracula. So sometimes go closer, but understand the weaknesses of that. You're obfuscating, but generally obfuscation isn't really your goal with wolf form. I mean, it can be. Sometimes it is. Obviously, wolf forming from Strasbourg is insane. The number of possible cities that you can be at is something ridiculous. I don't want to count them up because I'm not here to count for you. Sesame Street joke inserted here. But that's a really good location to be. Understand the idea of choke points? Like, if you're here and you're like, haha, wolf form! And it's like, okay, well, all the hunters have to do is basically check here and here, and they'll know that you didn't go past here. Unless you wolf formed from 59 or 58. So, wolf forming from 59 and 58 can be really good. One step further than that, horrible, because all the hunters have to do is check 44 and 38, and they will have cut off the entire idea of you going to this part of Europe, and all they have to do is race back into Eastern Europe and get you. Italy has similar ideas, because it's basically a trail of you go to here, and then you go here, and then maybe you go here or go here. Wolf forming to like go down here, or even wolf forming from 20, really a bad idea, because it's a linear. Italy is very linear, and what you want to wolf form are things that are very whatever the mirror term to linear is. I don't know, oblong, circular, where there's a bunch of different directions that you can go, which is why I keep pointing at Strasbourg. Somewhere like Clonfermont is also very good, or Toulouse for the same reason. Madrid it isn't, because it's only one and then you stop, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna wolf form to here. It's like, okay, well, you could have just walked there. It's like, okay, I'm going to wolf form to 8. It's like, okay, that's kind of good, but again, this is a choke point that, like, one hunter can check in 2 turns. And that's not really going to give you an ability. Obviously, England, horrible place to wolf form. So, bad place to wolf form, bad place to wolf form, bad place to wolf form. Obviously, sometimes you have to. And that's okay. Don't feel bad for wolf forming in those locations, but just understand that there's a limited value from it. Also, this area is kind of a bad place to wolf form. Obviously, again, when I'm saying that, I'm saying it's not like I'm saying don't wolf form there. It's that I'm saying there's more value wolf forming somewhere like France or Germany or the northern part of Italy. Because you can cut the places off. Obviously, 59 is a good place to wolf form, 58 for the same reason, although moving to 58 is really risky because it's so high traffic. Wolf forming through or out of Munich is actually very good. Munich has a bunch of connections, and those connections connect to a lot of connections. I've seen a lot of people wolf form to 59. It's one of the first places that I'll check, although now that I've said that, I probably won't do that anymore. Because I've said it. It's very obvious to think, oh, they're in this part of the map, or they're over here, or down in Italy, or something. I'm going to be really clever and wolf form to 59. It's really common. Don't underestimate the hunter's ability to head you off. Move to 50 here, ocean. That's 2 moves, and they jump on you again. Or maybe they have excellent weather. Or even if they don't, it's still actually really fast. This seems like it's really hard to get to, and it's true. This triangle is really important. It splits the map in half. The rails are yellow. Moving around is really hard. But don't underestimate how fast the 57 to the Adriatic to the 55 is in saving you time. It's actually very good. It's guaranteed to do the same speed that fast horses would do with perfect fast horse rolling. So as much as I extol fast horses, there are other ways of getting around it. And once you're here, you hope you have a sense of emergency, or other people have gone around the other way. Obviously, wolf form to 59, very good, but it isn't necessarily the best thing ever. Man, I could talk about this map forever. Maybe I really should do a episode going over each zone and all the various nuances and whatnot to it. But what I'm really hoping here is for you to sort of get in the mindset of what is a good time to play wolf form. If you're at the moment where there's like 2 hunters in your space and you barely survived, obviously it's a good time to play wolf form, but there are other times when it can be... Generally, wolf form is when you want to play it, and I'm going to say this last so that hopefully you get it, because it's important. Generally, the best time to play wolf form is the turn before you get attacked, not the turn you get attacked. That, of course, is tricky because you don't know when you're going to be attacked. So, try to figure it out. And try to have Godspeed.